Textual inversion is kind of tricky, but I read the paper, so you don't need to read the paper. Here's what we're going to do today. Firstly, we're going to talk about what textual inversion is. Then we're going to sort of go through the technicals of how it actually works, so that when it doesn't work for us in future, we'll know why it's not working, and we can fix it better. So, what is textual inversion? It's just an alternative to dreambooth, which is less destructive to the diffusion model itself. It's a way of taking 3 to 5 images of like a style, or possibly an object in your house or something, and teaching the stable diffusion model, or like any other kind of latent diffusion model, how to replicate that and make images of that same object, or make images in that same style. That's all it is. So it's very similar to dreambooth, but it's less destructive. Okay, first part done. Nice, quick, easy. Now we have to talk about the technicals. How does textual inversion actually work, you know, inside the guts? So we all know how latent diffusion models work. They take in 2 inputs, some random noise on the one hand, despite what some anti-AI art people are saying, it is random noise. I can guarantee you that it is. And on the other hand, what you take in is a sentence. And obviously you can't pass a sentence to a model. It doesn't have ears to hear you or eyes to read the sentence. So you have to first encode that sentence into a numerical representation, which the fancy word for that numerical representation is an embedding. And in theory, the embedding, it's just like a huge matrix of numbers that captures the meaning of the sentence. And then that embedding is passed to the diffusion model. And the diffusion model is like, right, okay, I'm gonna make this noise look like what the embedding is asking for. And it makes its best approximation. And of course, the approximation's bad. So we pass the approximation back in and it tries again. And slowly, you get your nice image that you're looking for. And that is how latent diffusion models work. Now, how does textual inversion alter this process so that rather than for Keanu Reeves, I can ask for something, you know, like, you know, a picture of me or a picture of my mug or something like that. Very roughly, the way the dreambooth works is that you create a new token the model's never heard of. You turn that into an embedding. And then you force the model to go ahead and generate random images. And of course, it starts generating nothing because it's never heard that token before. It just tries to generate something. And you keep penalizing it until it generates your sample images correctly, or like more or less generates them. And there's like some fancy losses and things to make it easier. But that's roughly how diffusion, the dreambooth system works. And that works pretty well because you actually get this new concept sort of inside the model's like bank of knowledge. But on the downside, you actually do destroy the model a little bit. I've done another video where I just forced the model to do something impossible, to learn like an impossible task, and the model slowly goes crazy. But even whenever you just teach a new concept, the model does lose a bit of its knowledge. So because this is a bit destructive, the textual inversion people decided to take it a different way. In textual inversion, the model is actually completely frozen. There's no updates that are performed on the model at all during textual inversion training. And instead, the idea is to construct an embedding that is so precise and special that it works out how to generate your subject using the model's existing knowledge. And let me just go through that one more time, because that's really important. Textual inversion is all about the embedding. And what an embedding is a numerical representation of a human spoken English sentence, right? It's a huge matrix of numbers that have all these different values, and that's supposed to contain the semantic content, the meaning of your original sentence. That's what an embedding is. And the theory is that because there's so many numbers in an embedding, and there are thousands and thousands more embeddings than there are words in English, there are millions of possible embeddings, that if you search through the embedding space for a very particular embedding, and you search well enough and you search correctly and precisely enough, you can find embeddings for concepts that do not exist in English. Because the embedding space is so large, you can create an embedding to describe basically any object you could see, or any artistic style you can imagine. And this is what the authors said. They have this very nice quote here. The embedding space is expressive enough to capture basic image semantics. So in other words, this is so powerful that if you find the right embedding, you can describe any kind of image that you could think of or imagine. So what we do here is we create a random embedding, completely randomized. We feed that to the diffusion model. We get the diffusion model to spit out images, and if those images don't look like our samples, then we update the embedding. And this way we're sort of searching for the perfect embedding that will describe, you know, like my face perfectly. and one will exist out there. That's how powerful embedding space is, or at least that's what the textual inversion guys think. Okay, so what's the upshot of all this? Well, the main benefit is that rather than ending up at the end of the training process with a huge model that's like, 5 gigabytes, what we end up with is just a tiny embedding. And this is just a few kilobytes usually. So we can have a look at some of the textual inversion checkpoints on Civitai, and look, 15 kilobytes, 9 kilobytes, 9 kilobytes. These are tiny. So that's really good because it means that these checkpoints, they're really portable and we can share them around easily and we can switch between them really easily. And that's very nice. The other upshot is that the diffusion model is not affected. So you can train hundreds of different embeddings, you have 100 friends, you can train them all, and the diffusion model won't go crazy and forget all of its knowledge. So that's really nice as well. Okay, so that's textual inversion, that's how it works. Now all that's left to us to do is to try it out and have some fun. So we're just gonna go to Civitai, we're gonna download a random checkpoint, Empire style. That looks pretty good to me, it looks pretty cool. So we'll download this embedding. Again, it's tiny, so this will download almost instantly. Okay, it looks like we already got one here. Show in folder. And now all I'm gonna do is just cut that, go to my web UI folder, and then go to embeddings and just plonk that in there. And that's all I need to do. And the way that I use this checkpoint now is I just have to include the style-empire in my prompt. Okay, so now we have our embedding. The next thing we have to do is tell our model to actually use that embedding. So the way that you do that in Automatic1111 is you just include the name of that checkpoint, in this case style-empire, in your prompt. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to put style-empire in here, and this tells the web UI to go and find that embedding and include that embedding in my prompt. But before we hit generate, we have to do some checks. We now know how textual inversion works. You have this very specific embedding that's so specific that it gives you this, the style or the object that you want. But it only works, the embedding, with the model that you trained it on. If you pass in a slightly different model, because the embedding's so precise and works in such a precise manner in conjunction with the model, another model is not going to give you the same thing. It's probably going to give you closer to random nonsense than anything else. So basically, you have to make sure that you're using the same model as the embedding was trained on whenever you want to use one of these embeddings. So if the embedding was trained with Stable Diffusion 2.0, you better have 2.0. 2.1 is not going to cut it. So let's have a look here. Luckily, Civitai is amazing and excellent and brilliant, and it tells you all the details you need to know. So in this case, it was an SD 1.5 model. So it's not going to work on 2.0, it's not going to work on 1.4, you need 1.5. It's not going to work on Wi-Fi diffusion. Okay, so we're just going to go Style Empire, 1.5, EMA only. There doesn't seem to be any information on the precise model either. So we're just going to have to pray that this works. Okay, so clearly this is not what we wanted. There's something wrong here. It's picking up the embedding. It's definitely got this sort of London feel, but this looks nothing like what we were shown here. So now I'm just going to have a look at these exclamation points, and they'll give us the kind of prompts we need to put in here to get what we want. Okay, so this is the prompt. I'm just going to copy this over directly. And this is the negative prompt. And we're not going to take any chances. I'm going to do 50 steps. And we're going to do the DPM++ sampler as well, if we can do that. Here we go. DPM++ 2M, I believe that was the one. Yeah. And it's unlikely there's something called car. I'm assuming that DPM++ 2M chorus, right? Which was what we had here. Yeah. And unless we follow these things exactly, and how many steps was it? 50. Yeah, unless we follow all these things exactly, we're very unlikely to get the same kind of results. We could also add the seed, but it should be able to generate good results on different seeds, you'd think, you'd sort of hope, right? So, if you haven't been getting good results with these, maybe this is the reason. Okay, great. Here we have it. This looks a bit better. It still looks like trash. It still looks like garbage, and I hate it. So let's try one more time and add the seed in. And we're also going to change the CFG scale to 9. So hopefully this should give us like an exact replication. And if it doesn't, it means that something with our setup is kind of wrong here. definitely not an exact replication, so something about our setup is sort of off. I honestly don't know exactly what's off with our local setup here, but it's gonna take a while to fix it, so we're just not. We're just gonna try a different embedding. SDA 768. And we're just gonna load the right model, which is 2.0. We've got the identifier in this case, which is gonna tell Automatic1111 to get that particular embedding. That's great. Got the right kind of height and width. Gonna go back to Euler A for this one. Gonna go back to the normal number of CFG scale, and we'll just generate. Okay, and we actually got something pretty reasonable. Now we're gonna use the actual prompt from Civitai and see if we can actually get a bit of a better result. I wouldn't say this looks as good as what's up on Civitai, but it looks pretty close, and it still looks fairly visually appealing. I'm just gonna generate like 10 of these, hopefully like the best of those 10 will look really nice. But as you can see, when you're actually trying to generate images with textual inversion, it can be a little fiddly. So my recommendation every single time is to copy exactly what they have up here, exactly the same prompts, all of the parameters, and read this really carefully to make sure that you have like all of the right models and everything, and if they make any suggestions, follow the suggestions exactly. I would try to use the same seed, and just match what they have first. And once you've matched what they have, you're like, okay, now I know that I have the right parameters and settings, and I can start trying to do my own thing. But if you just start doing your own thing and things go wrong, you have no idea where the error is. Maybe it's in your setup locally, maybe it's to do with their checkpoint, maybe their embedding is really bad, like who knows. Okay, so let's have a look at these generations. Definitely some of them look pretty nice, and especially if you sort of zoom out a bit, a lot of them look quite good from a distance, right? Like if, you know, as small images, they look quite amazing. I'm sure if you upscaled them, they'll look pretty good. Okay, so we've achieved parity with what they're showing online. Good, good, good. Now we're actually gonna generate an image we want. Young man at the beach, and hopefully it will actually be able to give us that, because sometimes with these checkpoints, you ask for any kind of variation at all, and it just gives you exactly the same thing. So that's another good check to perform, is just to see if it can actually generate your normal things as well. We've chosen a man in this case, because I do definitely feel a little bit creepy generating all these women all the time. So we're gonna do a man this time. King! King! King, king, king! Look at this. And we have our very nice, sexy beach man. Okay, hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Now I'm gonna go and deal with all the life obligations that I've been putting off. If you thought this was interesting, I don't know, go find the authors of Textual Inversion and leave a like. Send them an email telling them about your gratitude. Their details are right here. Quick, quick, go. You can spam them. You can go find them, spam them. Oh, and we have a Discord. If you have any questions, Discord, YouTube comments. Questions, Discord, YouTube comments. Okay, catch ya.